But don't dry off yet. It's time for fun in the brand new Nickelodeon Blast Zone.
Disneyland is your land.
Welcome to The Archives.
Nickelodeon. Nickelodeon.
In November of 1988, Nickelodeon joined the Universal Studios Florida team to make its first production studio. In the spring of 1989, Nickelodeon filmed their first show, Super Sloppy Double Dare, at the production studio. This was a TV game and challenge show that had a few different iterations of itself, including Double Dare, Family Double Dare, and Double Dare 2000. On June 7th, 1990, Nickelodeon Studios, in conjunction with Universal Studios Florida, officially opened. This studio was an active production location and served as a theme park attraction as well, allowing guests to tour the studio and partake in different activities over the course of the tour. As of today, there are currently no remnants of Nickelodeon still at Universal Studios Florida, outside of some character meet and greets and SpongeBob's full store in Universal Studios Florida near Kid Zone. As for Nickelodeon Studios, unfortunately that has been permanently closed and replaced with a show for the Blue Man Group. Jimmy Neutron's Nicktoon Blast, a ride that replaced the fantastic world of Hanna-Barbera, has also since been replaced with the ride Despicable Me Minion Mayhem.
Hello. Welcome to Nicktoon Studios. We hope you enjoy your visit. While you're on the ride, we ask that you refrain from the following activities. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you enjoy your...
Jimmy Neutron's Nicktoon Blast had a store at the conclusion of the ride that included cool elements and props from the old studios, but even that, unfortunately, has now since been erased from existence.
Yeah, it's Michael Valley live at Nickelodeon Studios. We're at the Slime Geyser, and Slime is coming up. We're getting ready to play Slime Time. We're going live on an AT&T video phone to Lindsay from Great Falls, Montana. Hey, Lindsay, you already know how to play, so let's get started. When you say stop, a Nickelodeon character is going to tell you who you need to find on our game board to make a match and win. So when you're ready, yell out stop. Go ahead.
Vice Principal Lipman here. I can't find that pea-brained freshman Walter anywhere. Find him and you win.
Oh, you're right. You heard what Lippin said. 2 chances to find Walter. Pick a box, Lindsay.
3.
All right, number 3. Let's see what's behind.
right.
Yeah! Way to go! Lindsay,
Good
you
job.
won it all! You won everything. The Sega Game Gear. You won the 12 cartridges. The Surf Ninja cartridge. You win a bunch of accessories. The AT&T cordless phone. And you win the digital answer machine. Lindsay, you won it all! Way to go! We're getting slimed here at Nickelodeon Studios. We will be back tomorrow at 5/4 Central.
During this time, when Universal Studios Florida seemed to represent the physical manifestation of all of your childhood dreams, the place where you could actually go and be at Nickelodeon, there was one such park across the country that was a little envious and not so lucky with the amount of Nickelodeon collaborations that it received. Opening in 1997, 7 years after the opening of Nickelodeon Studios in Orlando, Universal Studios Hollywood finally received their piece of the Nickelodeon pie. Replacing a Flintstones musical, Totally Nickelodeon opened at Universal Studios Hollywood. Described as an interactive game show theater located in the upper lot of Universal Studios Hollywood. This theater allowed guests to play games on stage and featured at least 3 games inspired by the Nickelodeon channel. Looking back on the overall attraction lineup, I actually have to argue that Totally Nickelodeon looked to be one of the best attractions that was offered. It offered a very similar style to Double Dare for its participants, loud music, dancing, and seemed to be a whole lot of fun for people of all ages. This show seemed to capture everything that Nickelodeon stood for. Family fun, colorful design, and even featuring classic set props, and a little shout out to all of that was seen on stage. In my opinion, Totally Nickelodeon offered the closest experience to what was offered at its Orlando counterpart studios. This attraction ultimately closed as well in 2000 to make way for Rugrats Magic Adventure. This would ultimately set the stage for what was about to be built at Universal Studios Hollywood. Opening in April of 2001 in Hollywood was the Nickelodeon Blast Zone, described by the park as finally bringing the critically acclaimed children's animated television programs to life in an imaginative 30,000 square foot interactive adventure. This would serve to be California's largest Nickelodeon-themed attraction and was designed to allow the entire family to play together in an eye-catching environment that brings a new dimension of magic, fantasy, and fun to the world's biggest movie studio and theme park. Looking back on these statements today seems to be a bit of a stretch for what was delivered upon, but for the sake of this video, let's let the park continue. They continue to describe the new attraction to be the size equivalent to a jumbo jet airplane hangar. Guests will find a series of distinct areas uniquely themed with special kid-friendly activities.
Hey, we're at Nickelodeon Blast Zone at Universal Hollywood on a hot, big June afternoon. Last on the ball, pizza right leg!
Guests will discover Wild Thornberry's Adventure Temple, a ball play arena comprised of more than 25,000 molten lava-colored foam balls. Deep within the temple's interior, kids of all ages will come face to face with an enormous and mysterious orangutan statue, which, when provoked, will hurl exploding balls in all directions. Or they might stumble upon the temple's sacred altar, where they can shower the entire enclosure and unsuspecting guests with dozens and dozens of multicolored balls. In addition to this ball area will be Nickelodeon Splash. This would serve to be one of Nickelodeon's first forays into a themed water attraction and experience. Touted to feature characters from SpongeBob SquarePants, Angry Beavers, and Rocket Power, this would be located within an elaborate water play area. Created for kids of all ages, adults will also enjoy romping with their children on a platform 25 feet above the ground as they exchange water blast from H2O target streamers. Looking back on this myself, I can't seem to remember my parents ever wanting to run through this area with me and coming back soaked, but hey, maybe that's just me. Nickelodeon Splash would have a 500-gallon water bucket that would shower bystanders with over 12,000 gallons of water per hour. This is actually enough to fill a 20 by 30 swimming pool. I personally remember this very fondly. Kids would be all around the play area and you would actually hear an audible chime that signified that it was time to run out from the play area and run under the rocket to be doused by water. Right next door to this water extravaganza was the Rugrats Magic Adventure.
And now it's time for an exclusive, taking you behind the scenes of the Rugrats Live Tour.
Nickelodeon requested that this show, like a lot of kids shows, be an actual episode of Rugrats. So it became this gigantic.
Now, I know what you're thinking. This isn't Rugrats Magic Adventure. And you're absolutely right. But this is Rugrats Live Adventure. This toured from 1998 to May of 2000, ending their tour only 1 month before the opening of Rugrats Magic Adventure at Universal. You have to assume that Universal's attraction took inspiration, perhaps even the costumes, and many of the ideas from this touring live adventure show. Okay, food for thought. Back to the doc.
I just got to go to where they make movies at Universal Studios Hollywood. I got to meet Chucky and Tommy and Angelica and all the Rugrats in person in a cool magic show.
This served as a fanciful 20-minute stage performance of music, magic, and mayhem. This was considered to be the featured attraction of the Nickelodeon Blast Zone, launching guests into the imaginary world of Angelica, Tommy, Chucky, Phil, and Lil. The action begins with a wave of Angelica's wizard wand, and off you went on a Rugrats-themed journey. Strangely, this attraction opened in June of 2000, almost a full year before the rest of the land. This new water park and themed area of Universal Studios Hollywood served as a reminder of what their Orlando counterpart had been offering guests over the last decade, although admittedly, nowhere nearly as grand or on the same level. You also have to ask why this took almost a decade to be conceptualized and constructed, when Orlando seemed to be delighting guests of all ages with its studio. Ironically, Nickelodeon seemed to be finally implemented in Hollywood at a time just a few years short of what would ultimately be the falling point of Nickelodeon's attraction presence within Universal Parks. In April of 2005, only 4 years after the opening of Universal Hollywood's water attraction and themed entertainment area, Universal Studios Florida's Nickelodeon Studios closed for good. This is a topic that we will dive further into in a future episode of The Archives, so we will spare you the details of this closure today and focus primarily on Hollywood's still newly opened Nickelodeon attraction. In January of 2008, Nickelodeon's Blast Zone closed for good at Universal Studios Hollywood.
Are you ready to get drenched in 500 gallons of liquid fun? Or battle your friends with thousands of foam balls? Come monkey around with Curious George in the wildest play area Hollywood has to offer. It's the adventures of Curious George.
Along with it went the theming of the Wild Thornberry's Ball Pit play area and the Rugrats Magic Adventure, which actually didn't even make it to the 2018 closing of the land and was closed for good in September of 2001. If you remember, this is actually only after a year of operation, which made way for Shrek 4D, so you have to assume that this may have been one of the shortest stints of any Universal attraction of all time. The final and last incarnation of this area ended up being themed to the adventures of Curious George. This was a complete retheme of the Nickelodeon Blast Zone and featured many of the same elements of the past attraction. This retheme started in 2008. This area was largely untouched until 2013, when it was removed for the beginning construction of the Wizarding World of Harry Potter in Hollywood. So, what are your ultimate thoughts on this area? If Comcast had control of the park prior to this closure, would Nickelodeon have stood the test of time all the way until the Wizarding World of Harry Potter? I'm not so sure about that one, as many of the characters did begin to show their age, but I still feel that it's a question worth asking. But then again, there are always further intricacies when it does come to licensing. We appreciate you guys stopping by, and even though the past may look great, we can all work together towards an even better future. Take care, everyone.